So it's 6 AM and I'm up because I'm going to be filming a special project that Andy and I came up with yesterday. Essentially, we sat down and we brainstormed all of our key learnings of the expedition so far, and we put down questions for each of the people that we want to kind of give us that information in a condensed format, which you'll hopefully see. So I'm gonna go outside and start getting ready for this whole thing. I'm really excited. I had my pieces to camera like a few days ago. I did my interview, but now it's quite fun watching other people and seeing like what they're asking, what they're coming up with. So yeah, anyway, let's get going. Participants on this expedition have like a few minutes with Rob and Barney to ask a few questions, get it filmed professionally, which Kyle is very kindly doing, and this is what it looks like.
Rob, you're a passionate advocate for both the Arctic and the Antarctic, but your organisation 2041 focuses in on making sure we maintain the extraordinary treaty that was formed to protect the Antarctic. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, in 1959, probably the most successful treaty was ever signed, which said, hands off the Antarctic, let's leave it alone. That worked really well up until about 1991, where people were starting to say maybe we could go in there, maybe we could exploit it, mainly through my great supporter Jacques Cousteau, and interestingly, and let's salute him, we lost Bob Hawke only a month or so ago, but Bob Hawke, Prime Minister of Australia at the time, came in, supported Jacques Cousteau, and we got a moratorium signed in 1991 for 50 years that said, right, no ways we're going to exploit this, hands off, let's be careful with tourism, all kinds of great things. And in 2041, that moratorium could be scrapped, thrown away. It could hopefully be extended for another 50 years, or if we really do a good job, people could just say, right, hands off forever, it's a natural reserve land for science and peace.
Hi everyone, my name is Fidan. I'm originally from Azerbaijan, but I live in London, the UK, and I'm here on this expedition to work on my children's book series, which is aimed at empowering young people on environmental issues and what they can do about it. So we've already written our first book on plastic pollution, and our second book is going to be about the carbon footprint. So the intention is to get inspiration and content and all the knowledge and resources here whilst we're on this expedition from these incredible scholars and experts and professionals in their field, and put that into a tangible book ready to inspire kids to take those little green steps to protect our planet. So I thought it would be a really great idea for you to actually meet my eco-heroes. So these are some of the really inspirational individuals that are with us on this expedition, and they have a lot of very important knowledge to share with us. And yeah, I think it's really important to summarize all these key learnings that we've taken away from this expedition. So let's go meet the eco-heroes.
So, how do you plan a green revolution in your school, in your community, in your company? Number one, do all your awareness campaigns as if someone's a kindergartner. Use loads of colors and use their senses to get them involved so it gets into their cognitive thinking. Number two, make sure you connect whatever you're doing to the much bigger picture that the whole globe is working towards, like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or the COP21 Climate Agreement. And number three, find a way to add an activity that disrupts their daily life, that makes it so they cannot keep on living the same way that they did before. Something as simple as forcing them to change to a reusable glass bottle instead of a plastic bottle, so that the way they get water every day is different.
Thank you. What do you think is the number one thing we can do on an individual level to actually be greener on a day-to-day level?
Honestly, consume smarter. I think the strongest power we each have is consumption. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't consume, but then if you're gonna consume, demand better quality products from the brands you love. You know, tweet and social media and write emails and message your favorite brands and say, what are you doing to sustainable source? You know, what are the materials you're using? What is the footprint of your company, right? And I would say buy better quality things that come from local producers and buy less of it, because consumption is the #1 creator of our climate disaster. Just our need to consume and the need for more resources.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm here with Mr. Bob Manning, who is the Mayor of Cairns in Australia. For those of you who don't know, Cairns is the home of the Great Barrier Reef. So Bob, can you please tell us, how can we actually get through to our policymakers as citizens? Because this is super important to reach out to our policymakers, our MPs, mayors, so that we can actually make changes on a national level.
Sure, and sometimes that can be very hard because the stakeholders of politicians and mayors and other people, or their main stakeholders are in fact the people who vote for them. Because you have to be able to do any good, you have to get into power. To get into power, you have to get people to vote for you. And sometimes, and this is where it goes wrong, policymakers will not tell the truth, or they will bend the story a little bit to make good fellows of themselves and get elected. And once you've started doing something like that, really you end up being no good to anybody. So we have to pick policymakers, we have to pick politicians, we have to pick leaders who are committed to what they say they're committed to. You've got to make a judgment on them, and that's hard. You know, you can't always read them because some are very clever, they're quite devious in terms of how they project themselves, but it really is about the people always make the right decision, I reckon, and we have to be very careful in who we choose to vote for. Not just anyone, not somebody we like, not somebody who wears the same fashion as us, but someone who will do the job properly.
Okay, so the journey starts from selecting the right people in the first place. And what about regarding the climate crisis and bringing that to the top of the agenda, wherever we live? How can we speak to them to get them to listen?
Well, the climate change is something that really does reside with national leaders. Local leaders can do things and they can speak, but the big decisions need to be made by our federal leaders, by our country leaders. They need to be made soon. This is not a subject that can just be allowed to drag on, because every hour, every minute, every day
Counts.
Things are going wrong. And I'm not being an alarmist, but the sooner we start to change some of these trends, the better. Regardless of what we think about climate change, looking after our planet should be the #1 responsibility of all people.
So this is Andy. He is the man behind Earth Hour. Tell us a bit about what it was, this movement.
Well, it started 12 years ago, 2007 the first one, and the idea was to try and reach out to a really different audience when it came to climate change. So we had this term called the 5% rule, which is if you're in a green movement, you talk to the 5% that already care, or you have a fight with the 5% that will never care. But actually what you're really after is this big lot in the middle. So Earth Hour was designed initially just to engage a whole city. What it did was, it was Sydney. In the end it ended up going to 7,000 plus cities, and actually triggered a whole load of different ways of doing conservation, really focusing on kind of an open source approach. So I actually think that what we learned from Earth Hour and what we're applying in the next project, Citizens of the Great Barrier Reef, is disruption to the whole of the conservation movement, the kind of the shared economy approach to conservation.
Right, but you managed to mobilize a massive global collective. What's your secret? How did you do that?
I handed everything over to everyone. So we basically,
tell us more about that.
We created a brand around a very strong purpose, which at the time was singly, awareness around climate change. But so we had a common purpose. We created a brand that everyone could share, a symbol, and we created a moment that everyone could be part of. It doesn't matter where you are on the planet, and that was the lights off moment. And it worked. And at the time, MySpace was the world's largest social media platform. And we thought, crazily, oh, imagine if we could use social media to connect people all over the world.
So innovative.
Genius! But obviously my MySpace account now, not so busy, but yeah, so that's how we did it. But I actually think now the big difference between building social movements, which are still a bit more around the kind of the petition building, that kind of stuff, I think actually where we're onto now is building collectives, cooperatives, where you can actually get a lot done by working together. And the technology now actually provides for that. So that's much more the shared economy approach.
So Emily, tell us about the different negative emissions technologies currently available.
So the most obvious one and the easiest one is probably reforestation. So trees are really, really good at sucking CO2 out of the atmosphere. And so if we can plant a bunch of trees, that's one of the options that we have for actually removing CO2. In terms of some different technologies, there's one that I'm really excited about. It's bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, or BECCS. And so that essentially takes a bioenergy plant, which uses some kind of biomass, which could be wood, it could be animal waste, it could be food wastes, and it burns those, which is considered carbon neutral, and then it couples that with carbon capture storage technology, which essentially puts a little hose, if you can imagine that, on the exhaust of your power plant to suck that carbon dioxide out of the power plant, and instead of releasing it into the atmosphere, it instead pumps it and stores it underground. And so that's another example of a net negative technology. Another one is just direct air capture, and there's a plant in Iceland that's currently doing this. And if you look at it, it just looks like a whole bunch of big fans or air conditioning systems, and essentially there's some really, really fancy chemistry that happens behind those fans, and they're able to just pull carbon dioxide out of the air. And then similar to other carbon capture storage technologies, that carbon dioxide is just stored, oftentimes just stored in the ground. Or there's also really cool work being done to look at ways that we can actually turn that carbon dioxide into useful products like backpacks.
Okay, it's breakfast time now. So I'm actually not eating meat this expedition. That's the one thing that I've given up just to test it out, because that's like my biggest battle when it comes to reducing my carbon footprint. And I almost went for eggs Benny, because for some reason I thought it was going to be with salmon, but that's not eggs Benedict. Anyway, I'm having eggs. Is this mine?
Still doing the videoing stuff. I went to the lounge to
So I've been offline, off the grid, since I got on the plane from London to Oslo, and it's been such a treat. I just got a notification on my phone of my screen time, and it's gone down 78% to 1 hour a day, and that's most of it is taking notes, setting alarms, putting together like lists of things that I need to do like during my time here, because I have like deliverables and things I need to do for my partners. But yeah, I'm really, really loving the whole disconnect to reconnect thing. I'm pretty good actually usually in my free time. I'm not really attached to my phone because I like to immerse myself in the spaces that I'm in. Ooh, it's pretty dark in here. But yeah, I just love being off the grid. I know my mom doesn't feel the same way. I feel like she might be a little bit concerned because I haven't spoken to her since I left London. I've tried to send an SMS. Mom, I promise I've tried to send you a message, but there's just no network. So forgive me. I love you and I miss you.
I'm here to learn from the people and learn firsthand how global warming is affecting our planet. But most importantly to actually learn from the experts and everyone else who's come on the trip on how I can improve my idea to help people become more carbon neutral.
And you actually won a competition to get here based on an initiative you came up with. So tell us more about that.
Yes. So the idea is a carbon credit card, and it is a simple, normal credit card where you spend on it, and at the end of the month you get your monthly bill of £1,000. But whilst you've been spending, it's been calculating the CO2 emitted by each of the products that you have bought. So at the end of the month you'll get your £1,000 bill, but also a 600 kilo CO2 bill, for example. And then it will give you 3 options on how to offset that. So whilst going about your daily life, you have been enjoying and buying groceries and everything else, but now you're carbon neutral.
That's amazing. Well done. And it's already being prototyped, from my understanding.
There are discussions.
Okay.
So it's a slow moving process in a big bank. And given the energy and the enthusiasm of everyone here, my goal is to try and capture some of that and bring it back to the bank to really speed up the process and see if we can get like a mini startup mentality going.
Absolutely.
To get it out as quickly as possible.
Hi, I'm MARISSA CORDA. I work for Synetics, which is a global solar power producer.
Over the last few days, we've talked about scenarios that, for example, get us to net zero emissions by 2070. What would be your view on our capacity as a human race to bring net zero emissions in much, much earlier than that?
So mine's not science-based, but experience-based, and I think we've seen the installed capacity of solar increase in a way that no one expected, outperforming every projection. You know, technology is getting better and better, as one would expect, and I think as a people we want to solve problems, and we've got a huge problem. I mean, like we were talking about, we're on the edge of a boat in front of a mine. Right? It's horribly depressing, but it's really hot, and we're in the middle of the Arctic, and it shouldn't be. So, like I said, climate crisis that we're facing, and I think we will solve a problem because we have to solve a problem. So do I think the storage is going to get better to make solar a more reliable solution for 24-hour power? Absolutely, because it has to.
I think one of the key takeaways from this entire session has been thinking about really simple, sustainable solutions that we can implement in our daily lives. Everything from thinking about removing single-use plastics, which can be challenging, to thinking about kind of the food that we use and the carbon impact of our waste. One thing that I think is really easy to do if you live in a city or if you live outside of a city, it's even easier. But thinking about how much food waste goes into the actual waste cycle, thinking about how you can do some simple things like maybe starting a compost pile or doing some worm composting. It sounds really difficult. It's really not that hard. And if you actually look around, you might have local resources that help you get free things, like a free compost bin, or making something out of something that's been upcycled, like pallets. Obviously, you need to make sure that it's non-toxic, especially if you're going to use it for food. But for me, I put together something really simple based on some online plans. It costs maybe $20, and every week the garbage man comes, and most of the time I don't put the garbage out.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is PAULA, and we're the founders of Green is the New Black. So one of the biggest challenges in sustainability is the idea that people think it's hippie or too preachy, or that people get annoyed, or that people think it's inconvenience. And we basically wanted to tackle all of those things and say, you know what, being sustainable and being green is cool, and it's something that we should all be part of, and we actually think it's pretty sexy.
So we work with brands which are cool and then align with our conscious aspect vision. And for us, the consciousness starts from within and from little things. The brands doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but at least they're aware that they need to start somewhere. They've been doing work either from an environmental point of view, but also from a social point of view. They come on board in our community, and then we challenge them. And we just say to them, now that you have access to our network, you can further your sustainability agenda. And then together we just grow. Basically, we're using the code of the pop culture in order to apply them into our world, which is sustainability, nature stuff. And sometimes we just even think about the craziest concept to mix together something very glamorous, very luxurious, something you would never think about when you think about sustainability. We just apply those principles into our world. So as Steph said, we're working with photographers, and they work with like big brands like L'Oreal or like big fashion brands, and they come on board in our world, and we just like share, and the collaboration is just perfect.
My top 3 little green steps is, firstly, bringing your reusables everywhere you go. There's just no need to use single-use plastic anymore. So have your reusable water bottle, lunchbox, cutlery with you everywhere you go, and say no to single-use plastic. Secondly is now looking into offsetting. So it's really easy to plant trees now. So if you're going on a flight, plant some trees, offset your carbon, and start thinking about the impact that you're having on the world. And thirdly, rethink your wardrobe. We don't need to be consuming and buying all this stuff new. We can share, we can swap. There are so many great solutions. You can do vintage. So yeah, coming from a fashion background, rethink your wardrobe.
So second thing for women, going green on your periods. Either use a moon cup or reusable, no, not reusable panties. How do you?
Period panties.
Yeah, but like, would you explain?
They're reusable period panties.
Okay. Going green on your periods. So either use a moon cup or a period panty. So that's my second step. Third step will be like to cut down on your meat. You don't have to be vegan, you don't have to be vegetarian, but at least 1 day per week, just don't eat meat. And there's a big movement where we live in Asia, which is called Green Monday. And now it's even corporates and big businesses are starting to do it. There is no meat in any canteens or restaurant. And it's so simple, so easy. You'll feel better and you'll have a big impact.
Hello world! Here I am with David Hone, the Chief Climate Advisor to Shell, and I'm going to pick his brain a little bit on the more scientific side of things when it comes to climate change. I'm from Azerbaijan and I'd love to know what can we do as a nation that is predominantly oil producing to be greener?
Well, the best example for that is the country that we're sitting in right now, Norway. So we're in the far Arctic north of Norway. This is a country that's a major oil producer, and yet they're embracing technologies at a rapid rate to change the profile of their economy. Now Norway has been gifted from the start with hydro capacity, and so they obviously already have a hydroelectricity based energy system. But they're making a rapid transition to electric cars, even though they're an oil producer. They're embracing and helping the world develop technologies like carbon capture and storage, because they recognize that as a resource producer that's producing fossil fuels, that seeing carbon capture and storage develop over the long term is in their interest. So I think for a country like Azerbaijan, it's, take a leaf out of Norway's book, look at what the country is doing, think about its philosophy around this, but think about the technologies that are important, because this isn't a world where oil production just ceases and vanishes, right? It's a world where we manage emissions. Now, that may well mean lower oil production globally, but all our scenarios in Shell show that oil production continues for some decades. And in fact, there's some oil production left right at the end of the century. But managing emissions through technologies like carbon capture and storage becomes very, very large scale. And so I think, think about those today, because it's going to take a long time to get them to deploy them at scale.
I'm here with a bunch of other folks from different companies. Rob came to present to us last year, and we all got inspired. We're all in energy type companies, infrastructure companies. We're all in the middle of energy transition, and we thought this is a great idea to learn more and also put that into action. So that's what we're doing here.
Amazing. And can you give me more of a background as to what you do on a day-to-day?
I'm sort of semi-retired, but in this role I'm a non-executive director, so I sit on the board of this company, and I'm here together with the CEO.
Amazing.
So, and we're the only ones who have a CEO and a board member coming to this event.
So you're going to do big things?
Well, yeah, and what we found is we learned a lot. So David Hone was fantastic in giving us some of the science behind climate change and energy transition. And what we also found is that a lot of the things we're thinking of are actually the right things to do.
Amazing.
So it has motivated us to accelerate and keep doing what we're currently doing.
How are you doing, George? George from Burnley. Tell me, how did you end up on this expedition and what is your mission?
So I actually won a competition called On the Verge. It was company-wide where I work, which is BNP Paribas. And essentially we had to come up with a green initiative and then kind of defend that Dragon's Den style in front of like 5 senior people at the bank. And there was 2 winners. There was me and there was ERIK, who I'm sure you'll have a video somewhere.
So tell us, what is the idea that got you to win this competition, to be on this ship with us in the Arctic?
So it's essentially a way to give users back their data. So you collect a lot of environmental data sets, you visualize them in a nice data dashboard, and then you give people personalized alerts so that they can kind of track their usage, understand their impact, and ultimately
And this is on an internal, professional level at your workplace?
Yes, so this will be internally among BNP Paribas, but there's 190,000 people at BNP, so it's quite a big impact.
It's quite considerable. And can you give us an example of how it can be used?
Yeah, so there's multiple different areas. So one could be printing. So maybe you have a client meeting every single Friday, and this system will be able to detect that. It will be able to understand what you normally print, and maybe send you an alert 2 hours before with a one-click link that you can book a tablet instead.
Amazing.
So,
with this trip, I want to inspire and motivate the people from our organization, so the employees of Procter & Gamble, to show them why we're investing so many resources in sustainability, why we're implementing all these changes in our innovation program, and why we really want to make a change. Because with our consumer goods, we reach millions of consumers every day in their homes, so we can really drive a change for the consumers and drive a change in their habits to make everybody do the right thing, and so that everybody can take small steps in their homes in the first place.
I am here really to inspire innovation in different ways. There's been so many times that we just do the tried and true method of engineering, and I would like to step out of that box and think abstractly, think outside the box, how I was originally trained to think, and think of innovative ways to where we can be more responsible ecologically.
Amazing. And what do you do in your day-to-day?
Currently, I'm a product development engineer, so I get to see the products from infancy, conception, all the way to the finished product. So I would like to find ways by talking to everyone here on how we can do more, I call it passive active type of processes, where we actively put it into our process and our milestones for developing products, but then we can passively recover energy or be more efficient.
Amazing. Thank you, Jessica. Actually being here and physically seeing that it definitely shouldn't be this hot has definitely awakened like a higher sense of urgency to drive the mission further. But a really positive thing that I've taken away is that when people come together and the determination to fix a problem is there, everything is possible. We've seen it in the past, and it's just really, really great and powerful to understand that it's possible. Get together, that is the way forward. The current problem we face with the climate crisis isn't about finding the solutions, it's about gathering the determination. So I think my mission right now is to raise awareness, to continue to raise awareness, and get people to get together and solve the issue.